What is up, guys? It's Jono here, and in this video, I want to review the platform bark.com. Now, if you're watching this video, you've probably come across it and you're wondering, is it worth it, right? For those of you who don't know what this platform looks like, this is essentially it. Find the perfect professional for you. Now, on this platform, I've actually made $507,000 on Bark. It actually allowed me to scale from zero to over $1 million in revenue in 4 months. And when I mean over $1 million, I mean on track revenue. We actually hit $1.2 million the year I started using Bark, okay? And what it cost me was $82,000. Now, essentially, I don't wanna just, throw out those numbers. I actually wanna prove it to you guys. So if we go into my Bark account here, we'll go into settings and we're gonna go into invoices and billing details, okay? First thing you'll notice is there's 19 pages. This is one of 3 Bark accounts that I own, okay? So if we keep going through, you'll see all the money that we added up. The actual dollar figure is $82,605.25, and the revenue is $507,964.44. We closed 254 deals and we acquired 4,890 leads. Now the conversion rate was, okay, perfect. There we go. It's back up. The conversion rate was 5.19%. And essentially that's the equivalent of calling 20 people, right? So for us to close one deal on bark.com, we had to call 20 people. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how did you do this and can I do this as well? And the answer is to some degree, yes and no. Once again, it just depends on your geographical location and the particular niche that you're in. So with that being said, let's jump into an overview of what Bark looks like. So when you log in, you're gonna be able to buy leads from the platform. It's a pay to play model, right? So you can see all of the leads that are coming in. You can see how many professionals have actually claimed those leads. And if you like the lead, then you can buy it. Now, the problem is that with bark.com, a lot of these leads are lower quality, right? A lot of the leads might be fake. They might never pick up their phone, right? They may never get back to you. So for a lot of people, they get frustrated, right? And when they get frustrated, you've probably gone to Reddit and you're like typing in, hey, should I use bark.com? And a lot of people will say, no, never use it. It's a scam. Don't trust it, all this kind of stuff. But it did work for me. And it worked incredibly well for me, as a matter of fact. But I'm not going to sit here and say it always worked, right? Because, for example, I run a DJ photography and videography business. Now in Canada, it worked really well for the DJ niche. For the photography niche, we almost just broke even and we didn't make that much money at all. When we went to the United States, the quality of leads there were much worse, right? And we were actually losing money. So it just depends on where you're located. And for some people, it's gonna be a hell yeah, this is a great platform and definitely give it a shot. For other people, it's not the best experience. But what I want to do is I want to explain to you guys how you can actually succeed on this, because if you don't follow these steps, then you're probably not going to succeed. And there's just one step that you need to follow, and that's calling a lead within 60 seconds. Now, what I'd like to do is actually show you how you can do this, because if you're like most people, you're not a robot, you're not going to be, on the Bark application 24 hours a day ready to click the, call lead button now. And maybe you have a team of sales reps and they're not going to be able to be on the call, or be able to pick up, the Bark dashboard and call a lead. And maybe you have SEO leads and Google ad leads. So anyways, it's a nightmare, but I'm going to show you how you can do this like a pro and maximize your conversion rate. But speaking of conversion rates, what I'd like to do is show you kind of, the difference in my industry, at least, in conversion rates. So Bark, 6.03%. This is a bit off from the percentage that I showed you here, which is 5.19. So there is a bit of human error, and please take that into account when you're looking at these metrics. Wedding Wire, which is essentially the same thing as bark.com, it's a subscription model, you buy leads in the wedding space, is slightly higher. And then you have Google Ads and SEO, and these are effectively twice as much. So you're effectively closing twice as many deals. So who is Bark actually good for? Well, Bark, in my opinion, is good for businesses that are just starting out. They're solo entrepreneurs, right? They're hungry and they don't have many leads. So that's the kind of target market, right? They have the time, they don't have the leads. For more mature businesses, if you have 10, 50 people, it's going to be, it's probably going to be worth your time going to Google Ads or SEO or any of that kind of stuff, right? So that's just my personal recommendation. We still use Bark, and it has been good, but we've been slowly kind of being less reliant on it over time, just because Google Ads and SEO are significantly better sources of lead generation, but not back in the day, of course. Okay, great. So that's kind of who it's for. Now, what I'd like to do actually is share with you guys how you can claim leads like a pro, how you can get them in 60 seconds. Because when a Bark lead comes in, I'm going to be honest, I tell my team, my sales reps, if you're not there in 5 minutes, don't call the lead, right? Because a lot of these people, they're researching, they're not serious about it, and they're tire kickers, and they might, inquire like, okay, I didn't get the price or the information I wanted, now I have to wait for professionals to contact me, and then they're gone, right? And they essentially vanish, and you can never get a hold of them again. So essentially, for us, we always call within 60 seconds. And if we don't get there in 5 minutes, we pretty much rarely claim the lead anyways, because the chances of that deal closing is slim to none. So how do you claim it? Well, the thing is we use automation, and I actually want to run you through what that automation looks like at a high level. We use Go High Level for our CRM. We use Make.com and Zapier for automation tools. They're both softwares. Essentially, if you haven't heard of them, they're like glue that binds the internet together. You can send information from one application to the next. So let's say you're using Bark.com and you're using the CRM Go High Level. You can, in the workflow that I'm going to show you, you can, when a new lead comes through, you can send that to Zapier, okay, immediately. And then when you have it in Zapier, you can send it over to Go High Level, right? And then you can send a text message or an email to yourself being like, hey, you got a new lead, and here's a link to claim that new lead. And as soon as you claim that new lead, it automatically purchases it for you. And then once it purchases that new lead for you, well, then you can automatically set up a phone call with you and that client. And there's a lot of different steps there, and it is a bit complicated, but I'll kind of break it down so that you guys really understand how to do this, because this is the most fundamental part about Bark and really just leads in general, is calling them quicker, right? And that's what we're going to do. Okay. Okay, so what we're gonna do here, guys, is we're gonna go over to Zapier.com to start building this workflow, okay? So if you guys don't know what Zapier.com looks like, this is essentially it. It's this website you can get started for free, okay? And essentially, once again, this glues different websites and softwares together. Okay, great. So in Zapier.com, I'm just gonna rush over this so that you guys get a high level overview. We have something called triggers and actions. Triggers are when is the start of an automated workflow, and actions are what happens after the trigger takes place. So in this case, the trigger is a new lead in Bark, right? So when a new lead in Bark comes in, it's going to essentially send all the data from that lead into Zapier. And this is kind of the information. You can see the ID, you can see the credits required, you can see the purchase cap, how many people can buy that lead, which is 5. You can see all the information here, right? So you can see approximately how many guests, all the information that you're gonna see in the Bark website here is all gonna be passed in through Zapier here, right? So you can see it all, and you can manipulate this data. Now, what we end up doing here is we use something called a webhook, and we're essentially just pushing information from Zapier over to Make.com. Zapier and Make.com are essentially the same thing. Make.com is just better than Zapier and has more, nicer abilities. So I just always use Make.com. But essentially, we're just sending information with a post request to this endpoint here. This endpoint is essentially the webhook here, which is this link here. So you can create a webhook module. It automatically generates a link. You can insert that into a post URL. And when this action happens, it's just going to send all of this information, okay, to that URL. So all we're doing is we're just switching applications right now, and we're sending over to make.com the first name, the city, the website, the category name, the BARC ID, the display URL, the location name, the credits required, the display text, and the company, right? So all the critical information we're just moving from right now, Zapier to make.com, and here we are. Voila, we're here. Now here's the real secret sauce in this is we want to filter out leads that we don't want, right? Because not all leads are equal, and especially when it comes to BARC, we don't want to be buying every single lead, right? Buying every single lead is going to result in losing money. So there's a couple ways we can do this. The first one and the easiest one for you guys here is to go into the settings and go into the services. And once we're in the services, you can click on any particular service and you can filter it out. Now, the problem with this method is that you can't actually filter out all the things that you probably want to. So for example, what type of event do you need a DJ for? Well, great, you can filter out bar mitzvahs, birthday parties, and we only want office parties and weddings, but we can't filter out if there's no date or if the date's unsure. And that's a huge pain in the ass, right? Because obviously, if somebody doesn't have a date for, you know, a corporate party or a wedding, it's like, you know, you don't have a date, right? You don't have a venue, you don't have any vendors locked down. It's an idea, right? And as much as I'd love to help you, that clientele, it's just not worth the money, right? So we need to filter out more than what they provide us in BARC. And this is where make.com comes in. And you can do this in Zapier as well. But essentially, we're just having this filter step here where you can filter things out. Now, there's a lot of different ways that BARC will essentially, they'll use a lot of different language for the same thing. So depending on what services you're dealing with, right? Because there's multiple different services. It might be DJ, wedding DJ, so on and so forth. The text will change, right? So essentially it says, what date would you like the DJ? Not sure. What date is the wedding? Not sure. What date would you like the photographer? Not sure. All of that kind of stuff. Do you have the word cheap in here? Do you have the word breaking the bank? We probably don't want cheap clients either, right? So we're filtering this out based on the display text here. Now, I'm not going to get too far down into this exact automation here and how we have the join the split operators, because that's a bit of custom code. It's not necessary. You can also do this in Zapier as well. You can just have a filter step. If I go in here, click filter, and then, you know, we can also just say, you know, if the display text, okay, if this, and then contains, you know, same kind of deal, this, we can do it there as well, right? So that's just one way to do it, but essentially you're just filtering it out so that if the lead has no confirmed date, yeah, we're not going to talk to them, and we're not even going to get the lead coming through the CRM, right? So that's kind of the first step, right? And then there's a lot of stuff going on here. I'm just going to kind of skip over it, but essentially what's going on here is we're just sending this information over to our CRM, right? We're sending it to this API endpoint. So what an HTTP module is essentially the same as a webhook, right? Which is just we're sending information, but instead of sending it from Zapier to make.com, we're sending it from make.com to Go High Level, which is the CRM that we're using. And this is the endpoint that we're sending it to. So this endpoint right here is the same endpoint that you'll find in here. So I'm just going to do this. We're sending a post method. This is software engineering jargon for, you know, what kind of requests you making. Post, the most common are get, post, put. Get, post, put, and delete. Delete is when you delete something from a database. Put is when you update something in a database. Get is when you retrieve information from a database. Post is when you're sending stuff and saving it into the database. In this case, we want to send a contact and save them into our CRM, right? So post is the method. We're going to use body type application x-www-form-URL encoded. And then we have something called key value pairs. Essentially what you're doing is you're defining the variable, the key, and then the variable is the value, right? So in this case, first name is the first name of the client. Email is info-000 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. This is an iterator. Every time it runs through this scenario, it just adds 1. So the first time it's 1, the second time it's 2, the third time it's 3, the fourth time it's 4, the 700th time it's 700. We do this because we can only have one unique email in our CRM. You can't have 2 contacts with the same email, so we always just change the email. But you don't have to do this. That's not super important. The city, we're passing the city, website. Notes is just the information from the bark category name, and then the notes as well. So we're passing all this information in, right? And essentially what's happening is we're hitting this stage right here, right? It's entering this information in, it's creating a contact in our CRM with the information. We're saving some of the details into the notes section of the contact, and then essentially what's going on is we're filtering it by the company name. We have 3 companies, djang.ca, Photo Kings, and Video Kings. If it's a djang.ca lead, meaning if the company from the webhook is djang.ca, it'll pass here. So once again, when we have information coming in, it's going to say, right, the company, right? So company is djang.ca. We got that from make.com here, where it says company is company. This company is passed from this webhook here, where we can see the actions, and company is once again djang.ca. So we identify the company here, some of the information we identify in bark.com, we pass that in particular fields, then it gets passed again through make.com into the CRM, and then it comes out in a format like this, which is called JSON, and then we can start using that data, right? And essentially we're filtering through it to have a defined process, right? Now, essentially all you really need to know in this is that we're actually sending emails and notifications to our team members so that they can be notified that a lead's coming through. It just says, hey, you know what, here's the first name of the lead, here's the details that you need to know, and this is where you can claim the lead. So essentially we have a form here that we send a notification to, and then our team members can go in and they can choose their own name. In my case, this, claim the lead. And once you claim the lead, it starts another automation, which essentially when that form is submitted, there's a lot of stuff here going on. Don't worry about it. It's not super relevant. When this form is submitted here, essentially what happens is, depending on who selected the form, which is me in this case, it assigns it to me, and then it essentially sends this webhook down to djang.ca, this webhook here. It sends it to purchase that lead. Right? So once, just to show more clarity, this URL here is that URL right here, right? So we're sending information from the CRM, which is Go High Level, into Zapier, collecting that, and then we have a module here called Purchase Bark, right? And in this Purchase Bark lead, we're just essentially purchasing that. We're then sending it back into the CRM, so that person who claimed it, the sales rep who claimed it, can now call that Bark lead. So just as a high level overview, what we did there is we had a Bark lead that automatically came through. We got that information in Zapier, we passed it over to make.com, and then we parsed some of the information, we filtered it to make sure that all the undesirable leads we're not getting notified about anymore. We sent it over to the CRM Go High Level, and then we essentially, what we did was we sent a text message out to all of our sales reps. Because it's a speed to lead game and we want to close the deal in 60 seconds, whoever claims that lead on that form as quickly as possible will then purchase the lead. It'll send it back to Zapier. Zapier is going to automatically purchase the lead on Bark, and then it's going to send it back to the CRM so that we can automatically have that new lead that we just purchased assigned to the sales rep that purchased it. It was me in that case. And yeah, we can call and email and text. And that whole process, by the way, that only takes like 10 seconds, 20 seconds. It's super fast, and it's all procedurally generated, which means that if your competitors are trying to log into Bark and they're like scrambling to type in their passwords, you're not doing any of that. You just buy the lead, you automatically call it, 20 seconds, nobody else can compete. You're on the phone with that client faster than anyone else could possibly be on the call faster with the client. So yeah, so that's essentially it. It's all speed to lead. You want to programmatically generate it, and the only way you can do this is really through Zapier. So if you guys haven't signed up for a Zapier account do that, and that's really the game changer here. If you want to do it, you just got to do it through Zapier. Now, one other scenario here that you can do that just is a lot simpler, in case you guys were wondering, is I'll just recreate a scenario here. You can actually just go ahead and purchase the lead right away. You don't have to do any of the routing when it comes to assigning different sales reps to it. So essentially, oh, this looks different here. Let's see. Okay, so we're gonna do bark.com. Once again, create it, event, new bark, click continue, and essentially, we're gonna choose the right bark account, click continue, limit the search results to my area. Yeah, I'm gonna do, you know what, let's do category DJ, wedding DJ, and then click OK. Test, let's test this trigger, see what happens. Okay, great, we have this. And if you guys want, you can just go right back to Bark and you can purchase that Bark lead, click continue, and then continue once again. The Bark ID is gonna be this ID here. You can put that in there, click continue. And as soon as that Bark lead comes in, you purchase it. And you're gonna want a filter step as well in here. So let's just go ahead and filter it. And you can do things like, okay, let's just say, does the credits exceed, let's just say greater than 10? Maybe you only want the higher quality leads coming through here, which you have defined as being higher in credits. Let's say you want, let's say another one. Let's just go display text, does not contain, and then we'll go back here. I'm gonna copy in this and paste it here, right? It doesn't contain the text line or texturing, what is the wedding date? Not sure, right? And then as long as it doesn't do that, great, then you can purchase a lead, and then within 60 seconds, you can already be on the call with that client. And it's as simple as that, guys. So does Bark work? Of course it works. I made $500,000 doing it. I spent over $82,000 on acquiring all of those leads, and you can make it work too. Just make sure that you do some testing, because it's not perfect for every geographical location. It's not perfect for every single service, but for the ones that it does work, it works really well. So I hope that helped, guys. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you guys. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and like it down below for future content just like this one. Okay, see you guys in the next one.